right. So we are live, and so I want to welcome everybody who is here today for this beautiful episode of Grief. Let's talk about it. And my guest today, we've talked. She's in Hawaii. She's been a speaker for domestic violence, mental health, and suicide. And she's also written a book, or a chapter in the book, correct? Called
Yes.
Power to Rise Above. And she's also the host of Healing with Aloha. DESLYNN, how you doing today, friend?
Aloha from the Hawaiian Islands. I'm so thankful to be here. We were just talking about how we gathered everybody from different walks of life talking about grief and how we just want to normalize it. So I'm honored to be here.
Yeah. So let's talk about the work that you do. How you get into the work that you do. I read a little bit about it, and we talked more about it as well. But share with the audience. I think that's pretty
So
interesting.
yeah, so I have been on this journey. Well, so prior to the podcast, my sister back in 2001. Oh, okay, before that. So when back in the 90s, I started talking in church, and while there, you talked about my faith in God and how I went through a lot growing up, but that how God like helped me to feel peace and to feel love and to really understand forgiveness. And for that time, I felt great. Well, in 2001, things changed, and unfortunately, my younger sister, she was 23, she was in a vehicle accident. She died that night,
Mm,
and that experience, that was my first experience, that really broke me. And for a long time, success was just getting out of bed. And although my faith was in God, it still didn't excuse the fact that as an older sister, I felt angry because I felt like, gosh, I did a good job for 23 years. Me, my brother, and sister, we always watched over her. And in this situation, we couldn't prevent it.
right.
And Uh, so 2001, I became pregnant, and 2006, my older sister, she already had done therapy. Said, "Hey, whatever you didn't deal with in your past is gonna pop up when you become a mom."
Mm,
And so that's when I sought out therapy, and I got diagnosed with post traumatic stress disorder. I wanted to do the work to process the grief of my sister and also the trauma. I had endured 19 years of trauma, uh, from being in a relationship with someone who dealt with alcoholism and drug addiction. And whenever they were high, they were very violent. And so I did started healing, and healing is an ongoing journey to the day you die. So is grief.
yes.
But in 2019, that's when I launched the podcast Healing with Aloha, because I understand how it feels to be broken, but if I can just help one person have hope to know that there's hope to heal, because when you grieve, whatever you never dealt with in your life, it will pop up. Like the most challenging things you try to wish away that never ever happened will pop up. And I wanted to make it normal to talk about grief, mental health, healing, and also to have passion for life, because I believe it's possible to grieve and to also experience joy. And so that's how my brand Healing with Aloha came about.
See, that's truly amazing because, we was talking about this earlier as being grief workers. We get excited when we talk about these things, right? And a lot of times people don't really understand. This is our passion. I could hear it in you. And listening to you say that you have lost your sister, I can relate because I have lost my sibling before. And that process over the years, what I'm saying, being undealt with, really did come back and manifest itself in a different way, uh,
Mm-hmm.
in a way I didn't really understand. And you talk with men as well, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you got a good understanding of what I'm saying. Men don't like to talk about these things. But even though that we understand that it's necessary, we don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
And what I've seen, well, from my own personal experience, the way it manifests itself is that I got angry. I
Yeah.
was very angry, because I didn't understand mental health. No one ever taught me that my mental health could be, destroyed or, you know, um, the word broken, that was one of the things I changed as well, because
Mm.
I realized I'm a human being, and you cannot break it. For me, this is just my own opinion, um, it's impossible to break a human being, but you can hurt a human being beyond, what they believe very deeply, right? And once I realized, just for me, this is just something that I learned, that worked for me. Once I changed that word, to hurt, I began to seek those areas of healing. And like you said, by that time, I had to go on a backwards journey of myself and go, I need to fix all of this crap that's going on with me, which is crazy.
Nasty, yeah, because there were
Yeah,
things. It was always there.
yeah, it's always there. And and I love that you help people find joy, because I didn't even know what that was like for the longest time. Um, it's just that every day was like bleh, I'm just going through life like bleh. I didn't know.
Me
I
too.
did not know.
Yeah, honestly, it was years though, and that's why I try to tell people, it's like, okay, for people who don't know me and know me now, like you see me on TikTok dancing and singing and whatnot, like
Mhm.
this wasn't what I was, because my sister died in 2001, 11 days after the September 11 event in the
Wow.
US. Um, my son was born in 2007. I had a hard time as a mother. How do you grieve the loss of your sister, but yet, in all fairness, celebrate the life of your son? Because my younger sister was like the life of the party. She was someone who was funny. She was exciting, and she was loyal and loving, because she would have wanted me to be the best version of me for my son. And
Right.
so it took years for me to embrace it. I wasn't being betraying of my love for her by
Mm.
being the best mom that I could be. And I felt that she would have wanted that for her nephew and my son. And so it took time, and then my dad died so my sister died from a vehicle accident, and then literally like 11 years later my dad died from a vehicle accident, related
Wow.
accident.
Wow.
And that was like a sucker punch. And I was like really depressed. I was teaching Zumba fitness for like 2.5 years, and I stopped because I just mentally, psychologically, I couldn't focus to teach a class. And so I walked away, and I went through hospice and did a grief support group. And while I was processing my dad, I was actually processing my sister, because I thought I had processed her in therapy and I didn't. And so it was really good for me to do both of them. You know what I mean? And I think giving yourself permission to feel, and it's okay to not be okay, but it's also okay to get help. Culturally, not a lot of us were taught how to get help. Our parents,
Right.
you see them struggle, and our grandparents, and then now we're going through like real life situations, and we have to. We're adults now. We don't have to listen to the values that we're taught. And when it comes to our mental health, our health, and grief and whatnot, it's okay to ask for help. And people are ready and willing to help us virtually, in person, nonprofits, government, and just real people who are not even associated to it. There's real people, and um, honestly, that's what saved me is asking for help. And that's not something I was taught to do, because growing up, it's like what happens in our house stays in our house, because there's a lot of shame and guilt if
Mm.
people know we have problems. But we all have problems, no
We
matter what
do.
ethnicity, race, what country you're from, we all have problems. So
This is very, very true. But you said something interesting as well, and it this has been a huge topic that's going to blow up. Um, Dealing with generational trauma, right?
yes,
Because not asking for help, that comes from people that we're around, and like you said, culturally, you know, um, we tend to mimic those that we're around the most.
yes,
And the conversation that we was having not too long ago is that, how does that affect your now? You know, um, and so being in the culture that I was in, predominantly black neighborhood, We was on welfare. We was poor, and but there were some things like now when I think about it, there were some things that we just didn't do. Like the men, when someone passed away, they would go off and get drunk and wouldn't cry or anything like that. I remember being told at a young age, "Hey, buck up, young blood." You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Wipe the tears from your face. It's all good. And throughout the years now, I've seen cousins and things like that. And honestly, we're all the same way. We do
Yep.
not process emotions um, the way that we're supposed to because no one ever told us that it was okay. It wasn't until I got older. And like you said, the heart, giving yourself permission. I didn't know I can give myself permission to feel, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and I didn't really start doing the work of feeling until I was already, let's see, my son passed away 6 years ago. So 42, 40, 44 years old, 44, almost 45 years old. I had been numb for quite some time.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah. And I was just like,
You're
now,
scared to feel the full emotions,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And I never understood that, right? Because it's strange territory. Culturally, I grew up in the gangs, or I got involved in the gangs, um, selling dope, all of those different things. And when you're around individuals like that in the culture, well, there's a rule on the street. This first time that you show weakness, somebody's going to take your head off. So
Wow. Yeah.
we didn't have time, on the worst days, we didn't have time to sit back and go, man, what I'm saying? My man's just got his head blown off. We got to keep moving,
Yep.
you know, we got to keep
Because you
moving. And
become a part of the statistic. Yeah, you become a part
right.
of the statistic. Yeah, like even for me, I was exposed to someone who dealt with alcoholism and addiction
Hmm.
and very violent and drug dealing and incarceration. And when you are around that kind of situation, you learn to feel energy in a room before people even talk to you. And a
Yeah.
lot of it is you stay guarded for your safety,
Yes.
mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and then you become an adult and you're no longer around those people that you have to be guarded from hurting you, whether it's verbally or physically, and you don't know how to act. You only know what you know, and then
Right.
you get older and then you become a parent or you just become an adult and stuff happens, and what you learn behaviorally good for you back then isn't good for you in relationships now and just in life. And I think it comes up when you face like someone dying. It's like, oh, all of a sudden you're like, oh snap, these emotions are coming up, and then so you numb out because you don't want to feel. But I realize that if I don't allow myself to feel fully, like sadness, anger, or whatever, I won't be able to feel joy and peace. It because it's like a pendulum. It'll just like go midway and won't swing, and that's why I think it's good to heal. I'm grateful to I'd rather be a healed version than a wounded, hurt person.
Right.
I I just I don't know. My son deserves it, and I deserve it, and I want to live my life to the fullest. And I think I want
Hmm.
that for people. But the decision to heal and to process pain, it's personal.
Yes. And I can definitely agree with that, because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know I was doing the work until I got around people like me and everything because I've always hidden everything. I've always just moved around. I never stayed in too many places too long um,
Mhm.
because, I didn't want anybody, first of all, I didn't want anybody to know who I was. Um, Secondly, I definitely didn't want anybody to get close to me. And, thirdly, I was on self protection mode.
Mhm.
I have, just going back to what you said, and I can relate to those things. I had so many people just try to do bad things to me. And luckily, I'm still here, but that came with a price. It definitely came with a price, and it was a lonely road. It's been a lonely road. And it wasn't, see, I've lost many, many people, but the hardest one was my son. And after him, when he passed away, my mother passed away 2 years, 2 years after him. And so I think in the process of those first 2 years, I was just walking around like a zombie, like I said before,
Mhm.
not processing. Spend a lot of time alone. I had a girlfriend at the time, but then there was an incident, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. It was just some of the things that was said that, and God bless her heart, because I know she didn't know any better, and that's fine too. Um, but it was just some things that I took personally that she had said that forced me back into that isolation mode.
Yeah.
And I just remember the night that I finally just broke down. Oh my God, the night that I finally broke down. It was in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep, running around the house looking for my son and everything. And I broke down. I folded up like a little baby in the corner of my on the floor of my bed. So I was sitting between the wall and the bed, and I just curled up, and I don't know, I couldn't stop crying. I just couldn't, and all of these different things started coming about. Like I started remembering my childhood. I started remember yeah, all of those different things, right? And people don't ever talk about those, especially being an ex game banger. I know ex game bangers now, that are my age, that was out there in the streets with me and things like that. And we all talked about it. We was like, we don't talk about the things that we've done.
No.
We hold that stuff in. Um, and I just remember, ever since that day, I was like, what is this thing? What is this thing? And something just said, give yourself permission.
Yep.
Give yourself permission, right? And I was like, give myself permission to do what?
Right.
Oh, no. Yeah, like I'm like, what are you talking about? You're not about to do that. Like, what are you talking about? Give yourself permission, Tony. It's like, what is this? No, no. And eventually, after I denied it for quite some time, it eventually came back and smacked me upside the head. And I remember I was driving trash truck at the time, and we was going out on route, and I just, I just started crying.
Mm.
Yeah, I just started crying, and my helper looked at me. He was like, um,
You okay? What's up, man?
yeah, well, he didn't really say nothing to me. He just kind of looked at me like, okay, I'm going to leave him alone because either he's mad, you know what I'm saying? Well,
Right.
he's mad, right? Well, that whole perception, being a man, everybody expects me to be the strong one.
Yeah.
Everybody expects me to, and people don't even ever see me mad. And when I get mad, I begin to cry. These
Yeah.
tears start coming out, but it's nothing personal. It's like, come on, it's an excitement for me. Um, but this one was totally different. The feeling of it,
No,
yeah.
it's good though. And you know what? It's healthy. It's actually healthy to be in tune. Because then after that first episode, you said you're crying, and then you're
Mhm.
crying in the vehicle. It's like, wow, my heart is no longer numb. Like, it's like, wow, I can feel, like, whether it's full happiness, full sadness. It's like it's different. You walk
Yeah,
into the world different when you allow yourself to feel.
yeah,
And people don't realize it is scary, but let me tell you, it feels good when you can get to that point where you can feel sadness, anger, because there's like over 200 feelings and emotions, you know what I mean? But we don't know that if we've
right,
always lived in anger or sadness. Because I
right,
feel like I operated between angry, like, why me, to sadness and happiness. That's the only three I kind of lived in, you know what I mean? My whole growing up. Because it's like, okay, I can be happy, but oh wait, oh, I'm pissed off. Don't mess with me, kind of
right.
thing. And but I don't know about you. They have this terminology, fake it till you make it, and that's kind of like how I operated. The book that I just came out in, I shared that I'm a domestic violence survivor and
Mhm.
that I to end my
Yeah,
life at a young age. Why did I wait so long? Because it's not a topic you talk about generally, whether it's talking about how my sister had died in the book to talking about domestic violence. At what point do you say, oh, by the way, I'm a domestic violence survivor? Like, there's no opportunity that pops up
right.
professionally, personally. And so when my girlfriend Sandy Davis invited me to be a part of this book called The Power to Rise Above, it's 30 women. I said yes, and twice I tried to withdraw my story because I just had this big fear, like, nah, my mom's gonna disown me because I'm certain things, And so what I did was the way I shared the story. I mean, I told the truth. It's just I just chose not to share who my abuser was, because I actually was fortunate to reconcile that relationship,
Mm,
and
okay.
that person is no longer with us. But I acknowledge what happened, but I don't have the anger and the hatred that I had felt for years. And when you can heal, is like you can tell your story, but in a I don't know, it just felt good. And so my mom read it and she said you did a nice job. And so all the fear that I felt was like for nothing. And I think what I told myself was like, you know what? I was in therapy and I said, I'm going to put it out there because on the other side of fear is love. And if I help one person know that they're not alone, that they can get help, for their mental health and, prevent a suicide, I did my job. And that's kind of like how I live my life is like, I just want one person to feel loved and to feel hopeful that there's no shame in their story, regardless of what their story is, they still have worth and value.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. Now doing this grief work, as being a man, I wish I had someone there, but I'm glad that I had to go through the emotions on my own. I really wasn't on my own. The people that came about helped me break myself open,
Hmm.
right? Um, and what I mean by that, the people that came about because I didn't know what I was doing when I first started my nonprofit, but none of us ever really do. We just kind of
No,
jump in with the idea, right?
they lie. They
And-
lie. They are lying.
right.
They know what they're
Yeah.
doing.
I just remember jumping in, and I just knew what I was going to do, right? And I had this beautiful vision. Now I still had the vision.
Right.
Yeah, I had this beautiful vision, and my feet would not stop going. I took off like a road runner. I was like, the first thing I need to do is get an office space. I got to get a vehicle so I could go do these things. And I'm going to do this. And I'm going to start this group and we'll start this group. And I tell you what, it humbled me.
Then the pandemic hit.
Well, no, but actually during the pandemic is when I thrived.
Oh,
But
nice.
that's also when I had my great, yeah, because okay, when I saw when COVID hit, like so before COVID, I was already telling people, like you said, make it till you make it. I was telling people I got this nonprofit that now I got this big old pamphlet that I'm trying to give to people so they can read about my story and about what I'm going to do and what we all about and things like that, right?
Right.
And then, someone told me one time, and I took it personally when he said it, he goes, "No one's going to read this." And I'm like, who are you talking to?
Right.
Right? You know what I'm saying? And so I took it kind of personally because of the way that he said it. And then this is the reason why I backed out of the churches because the guy was a church member. And I'm
Mm.
going, okay, you know what I'm saying? I need help.
Yeah.
And so, I'm trying to get this help from this
Because I'm not
individual.
critical with no
Right.
doesn't help.
Yeah. I'm like, they the ones who pointed me to you.
Right.
And in this whole time, I'm going through this grieving process. So when I took that personal, my first instinct was to punch him in the mouth. But you know,
Right. I may be a female, but I understand.
yeah, I mean, most people will. Most people will understand that because I was like, man, I'm gonna punch you in your mouth, right? But something inside of me, like I could hear my son in the background going, "No, daddy, you can't go around punching people in the mouth." And
Don't
I'm
do
thinking,
it.
yeah, I'm trying to reason with myself, but it was that grieving process that I was going through, that I didn't quite understand. And not understanding the fundamentals of what I was doing, I had a crash course. And so the people who came along, even though their intentions was good, the outcome was pretty detrimental,
Oh,
you know. But now it wasn't a bad thing because it pushed me right where I needed to be. So that's why I said I couldn't take it personal. And so I appreciate the people who came along and gave me these valuable lessons because I was able to take it and reform. Because what
right.
I was doing, and I started thinking about this thing, and meeting everyone. I was like, man, I'm going to create a peg hole blueprint. And what I mean by that is that, as we go and I build things, you know what I'm saying, when the people come behind me, they can easily remove that I had and put something better into place without messing up the structure of what everything.
Yes.
So yeah. But that took a long time though. Huh?
I totally get it, like what you're saying. If we didn't struggle
Yeah.
along this journey, um, we wouldn't have the compassion and empathy for other people along the way. Because if
Yeah.
everything just smoothly goes into play, when we're trying to help the next one, we can be arrogant and our ego can get in the way. But because
Yes.
like literally crawled through this and we're like, oh my gosh, we realize that is it what is your why? Like how important is this to you? And we pushed it forward.
Right.
Regardless we didn't know what we're doing. We just genuinely cared. And I think that's why people have to realize that if you really care, not about your how you look, but if you just genuinely care on the mission and the purpose behind the why, then
Hmm.
it's gonna eventually pan its way out. Like even for you with the grief support, I didn't feel like that really came into play until like 2020, and my sister died in 2001. That's
Right.
a
Yeah.
gap
Yeah.
because we're all forced to be virtually online. We're all locked down. Like you can't leave your house. If possible, don't leave your house. And
Hmm.
the hashtags is what saved me finding people for grief support and the most beautiful people too, like heartfelt people and even for mental health. If it wasn't
Right.
for it was mainly on Instagram and TikTok. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here, like carrying it forward.
Right.
But
Yeah.
there's no people behind these accounts, guys. That's all I can say.
This is true, man. This is true. And that's why I say COVID was is
Bittersweet.
good. Yeah, as bittersweet as it was actually a blessing to a lot of people. And what I mean by that, and I'm not downplaying anyone, it brought out the things that we have been telling people for quite some time that they took for granted. Like there's people struggling with mental health right now. Oh, it's not so bad, right? You know what I'm saying? That's why there wasn't a whole lot of mental health facilities around. You will see very few here and there. Grief support, oh my God. Now when that happened, people was like, holy, I was like, yep, we got to do better. We definitely have to do better. Now you see all of these grief
There wasn't a
organizations.
structure for it. There was
Right,
not
right,
a structure in place.
right. But
And
it
there's to
it
rebuild.
helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, as bad as it was, it actually helped those of us that were trying to get out there because it put us on the front street because people were starting to look for us then.
Yes.
And so pushing everything virtually actually gave us the leg up because it allowed us to reach more people. Now it's not in person or anything, but we were able to reach more people across the United States, all
Yes.
because of the social media. So and being able to do what we're doing right now has been a blessing. It's just I wouldn't trade it for the world. Yes, I would love to have my family members back, because I miss
Yeah.
them dearly. But also, I understand now why I had to go through it.
Yeah. You
You know,
know, I understand what you're saying with that because like some people, like you think back and you're like, gosh, I wish I could, right?
mhm,
Like till this day, like if I could, my sister walked through the door and be like, I'm
right,
home, guys. Of course, in a heartbeat. But I realized I grew up so guarded
mm,
and it didn't really feel like it was a bad thing per se until she died. And then
right,
I realized that I can't function like this because I have a hard I had a hard time trusting men because of the abuse. I didn't realize I was so competitive towards men. Like I don't need you. Don't tell me what to do. And maybe I didn't verbally say it. It's my attitude, my aura was there.
mm, yeah,
So my sister dying, my dad dying, and my grandpa passing and my grandma, I learned to heal the wounds. It's an ongoing thing. But then my heart opened up and I realized like, there's a lot of men who need to know that it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to talk about grief, to talk about mental health. And so I just did a summit in November for women. I did two healing summits the year before, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do a summit strictly men, because I feel like men need to be empowered too. And
Yes.
so I had seven of the speakers. I opened it up and shared about my heart behind why I do healing with the Lord, losing family, and being a domestic violence survivor. And out of the seven men, four of the men, they were moved to cry during the summit. They had no intention of crying. They're just shocked that they were crying in front of everybody on the panel, but they were just honest. Like, this is what happened to me in my marriage. I never talked about it. This is my first time being open. And they shared. He shared. And then the next person was like sharing about dealing with depression and how severe it was. And then how he relies on being an artist, and that is his prevention with his thing. And then somebody from California shared about where I grew up. There was no positive. There's nothing positive. He came from a gang related area. He's like, there was nothing. I mean, other than my family, there was nothing. And he just started crying because, like you said, like, you don't talk about these things. Because, like, at what point in life do you say, oh, by the way, I grew up with a really hard life. There are people I loved who were incarcerated, who were drug addicts and alcoholics. There's nowhere that you can safely talk about these things without feeling judged. And so I felt really great that I created a safe place for men and women. As much as I love being a woman, I really, like, I feel emotion. I want people to know that men and women get abused.
Let
And
it out.
I
It's,
know
you
that
know, yeah,
we often talk about, because I'm a domestic violence survivor, but when you're a woman, if there's a little boy around you, they're abuse, they're domestic violence survivor too.
mm,
And we don't give space for men to talk about being sexually abused, because they do get sexually abused.
yeah,
And I I just feel that I can't lean more towards women, because when I tell my story, I'm telling my story, but there are people around me that
right,
are also survivors. It's just I'm telling from my perspective, but men and women both carry pain, and we all need to have uh, the opportunity to heal,
yeah,
and to know that there's resources for men and women. Unfortunately, it's always talked about for women, but men equally need help. And in my own little way, I try to do the best that I can to let men know that um, I see you. I'm raising my son from a boy to a man, and I always tell him it's okay to feel. And if you're not happy, if you ever need help, Dad and I are here for you, Grandma and Grandpa and whatnot. But I don't ever want to tell my son, man up, because that's not correct. I
yeah,
think
no,
you're human, and if something doesn't feel right with you, you need to be able to express yourself and not be judged based upon your if you claim to be a man or a woman or whatnot. I don't know. I just think we need to normalize letting people be themselves.
right. See, and I wish those services around when I was a child, and um, and I've shared this before. When I was 6, I was molested by my neighbor's son, which happened to be my mom's friend's son, and that's where it all started for me. The anger, carrying that with me. He did it twice, and the third time that he tried to do it, I tried to kill him. But the second time when he did it, I tried to tell people, and no one really believed me. Oh man, people don't do that to young boys and things like that. So it kind of put me in a mindset of no one's going to save me, no one's going to protect me, so I have to protect myself. And I have a younger sister, so now I have to protect her as well, because now at an early age, I now understand um, what people are capable of doing to other, especially children,
Yeah.
right?
This,
and it does happen to little boys. It does happen. I have a friend. He was sex trafficked when he was younger, up until he was in his early 20s, and it took him running away for years. So living in this part of the world now, where I see these things differently and had to experience it, and it took me a long time to come to terms with the molestation part. It
yeah,
took me a long time because I needed to find out why I was the way I was. The anger part, prone to violence and things like that, not letting people get close to me, trust issues out of this world. So having a healthy relationship was out the window. All of my relationships was reckless. And I can associate it now, but yes, and I have been in a abusive relationship. A lot of people don't know, a lot of people have the misconception that men don't go through these things. And I wish these resources was around, but no, I was in an abusive relationship with my son's mom, and I wasn't even the abuser. I was the one being abused. Oh man, I can tell you stories. I could
yeah.
definitely
I
tell you
mean,
stories.
the thing
Yeah.
people don't realize is like, um, there's all kinds of abuse. There's financial abuse, there's verbal abuse, psychological abuse, mental abuse. Um, the thing that stayed with me that I'm still always processing is the mental and the verbal abuse, more so than the physical. Because when you're being told, like for me, the main thing I can hear is you're so effing stupid and dumb. Like
Mm,
people don't realize, like seeing something like calling someone stupid and dumb, it's really painful.
right.
It's not beneficial. It has no intentions of building that person up. And so, even though I was in college, I would break down crying every time I had to do a final because I didn't feel worthy. Like when you call someone stupid and dumb, it's basically telling them you're not worthy to be alive. I don't even know why you exist. And so I taught my son at a young age, don't call people stupid and don't call people dumb.
Right.
Because even though look, I'm 47 and it still like lingers, when I'm trying to pursue a dream or a goal, it's like, who do you think you are? Like there's no way you can do that. You're not smart enough to do that. And so I I tell people like, men do get abused.
Hmm.
Maybe it's not as noticeable because they're not given the permission to talk about it. And then when they do, they get dismissed. So they
Yes.
don't talk about it because they don't want to
Yeah.
be judged. But I don't think it's right for anybody, men or women, to call people a name. Like if you're not happy with me, you have every right to just move on with your life. But to stay with me and just deliberately say things and do things um, physically, verbally, mentally, like that is just wrong. I think when you're in a domestic violent relationship, it's like treating that person like a pinata. And that is not something I wish upon anybody.
Yeah. No. I'm sorry you had to go through that and everything. And like I said, I can relate to that as well. But you also did something with your abuser. You healed with your abuser while he was incarcerated.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because when someone's incarcerated, technically they're supposed to be sober,
Mm.
right? The
Mm-mm.
situation was. Yeah, hey, I'm not gonna dismiss things happen, right?
Yes.
So, and you know what's so funny? I was not funny, but I was thinking about it, and I thought, wow, this person could have told me not to come visit
Yeah.
him. He could have said, no, don't no, not take her off the list. You know what I mean? So, I am really grateful that he allowed me to come for about a month, and I went for 4 weeks, and I brought my boyfriend because I was deadly afraid to say what I had to say. But I just shared all the memories that I endured, feeling so hurt by what was said and what was done. There was no sexual abuse or anything like that. I mean, there was physical, but it never was like that. Um,
Right.
just feeling hated by that person when all I ever felt was love. Uh, and the result after confronting that person was them coming to church and them asking him, why would you come? And him saying that I just want her to know that I'm proud of her and I love her. And that is something I always wanted,
Yeah.
and it came, and it took courage. It took courage to confront. And the way I look at it, the way I confronted and talked to him, it wasn't like a, you are this, you're that. It's like, I felt this way. It hurt me. It hurt me when you said this. It hurt me. And it wasn't to make that person feel bad or guilty. It was more like, all I ever did was just love you. But this is what I remember. And I just, I'm just grateful I had that healing. I know not a lot of people have that. Um,
Right.
I'm just glad that happened in my 20s. Um, but sometimes people just need to be put in a situation like being incarcerated and sober to be open to allowing someone they love, that they hurt, to come in and to give them that opportunity to tell them that I love you, but you hurt me, and allow them the opportunity to even consider reconciliation.
Right.
But yeah, that's how I was able to. I mean, there's other people that came after. Um, like even I had to reconcile stuff with my ex-husband because there was things that happened in our marriage that, we both came from really dysfunctional dynamics growing up, and I can see where I could have done a better job and vice versa and whatnot. But we had to heal that. But we both had to do therapy separately, and
Hmm.
we're friends. He remarried, and it's just, I think we have to take responsibility and do the work for ourselves. Regardless if people change, some people will never change. Even if you do confront someone, they still not going to change. But
Right.
you do the work for
Right.
yourself.
Well, you have
Yeah.
to, and that's the hard part is doing the work, right? Because I don't think people really understand until you actually start to do the work. People really don't understand how hard it truly is, right?
Yeah.
How deep that work really just brings everything out of you. And it's like now you have all of this stuff right here. What are you going to do with it? You
Yeah.
know? And for and I've seen this across the board with every one of us that do this work of helping others heal and understand these things that we're going through or that they're going through and offering these tools to them, you know, the work of it. It takes pieces of you that you don't need, right?
Mm.
Things that you thought that would bring you security and protection and what I'm saying, safety and all of those different things. It takes those things away from you and helps you realize that you never really needed them. So
Yes.
yeah, so yeah, I was like, whoa.
I
I
mean,
could have.
like initially when it's like Pandora's box, right? Initially when you're like dealing with stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, right? But when you start digging it up, it's like, oh, okay, I can do this. But I think it's when you first start feeling like you did it. Okay, I'm not feeling good about this. Okay, what feeling? Well, this abuse happened, this trauma happened, way back when I was little. But it's the little me, the inner child that needs to be
Mm,
healed. When you give the inner child permission to feel, and that you can tell yourself like, I love you, or adults now, I got you. When you can have that connection to yourself, when you feel triggered by people or situations, and oh, okay, it's the little me that's feeling this way, you
right.
can now talk to your little me and be like, hey, Tony, we're not the kid anymore. We're adults now. We have money. We don't need nobody to take care of us or to do things for us. Like, it is so empowering. But I didn't learn that until like later, because I didn't get therapy until I was 31. So like you, if we had done the work early on, like cool. So when you're in your 60s, 70s trying to work on this, you gotta be patient with yourself. It's gonna take time.
Yeah.
That's how many years. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
There's
But
not an overnight fix to it. There's no
no,
overnight fix to it, man. I
one
learned that one
percent
the
is
hard way.
awesome. Yeah.
Right,
I
like
think we're the same age, right?
that's what they say. I'm not going.
I think we're the same age.
Um,
But like,
see, I'm 48, so you're
I'm
47.
47. I'm gonna be 48 this
Yes, and
month.
I'll be 49 this year. So, and when you said it like that, the reason why I laughed because it was like I had 42 years of just straight chaos, right? Trying to figure this life out. And out of those 42 years, I only sought help once.
Wow. Yeah.
So I relate that, right? Because if I have 42 years of all of this crazy stuff happening and I only sought help once, I can't rush the process. And I equate my journey to that process of becoming who I am. Because honestly, I didn't know if I was going to be in this sort of work. Before I got into this, I started a personal training company. And that was the company that I started for my son, right? Because he was already interested in it, and I was bodybuilding at the time, and so I was all about eating healthy, working out twice a day, putting on as much muscle as I can, and I had clients, and then my son was always like, let's go to the gym, Dad, let's go do it. And he, like 4 or 5 years old, here he is running with me, and I've been kicked out of many gyms because they were like, well, we can't have kids in here. So I was like,
Oh,
okay. I was like, okay. My son was on. I was like, it's okay, Dad. You can go work out. I'll go play over here. And I felt so bad. So what I did is that I turned my garage into my gym. And so I built it from there, from scratch, from nothing. And when my son passed away, I held on to it for maybe about a year or so, maybe about a couple years. And then when my mother passed away, I left and tried to start over in a different state.
hmm.
There, I lost everything. So that's the premise of how all of this. I lost everything.
Wow.
Had to come back to Colorado, and I'm thinking to myself, I need to get clients. I need to, what I'm saying, get back into personal training. So, I reached out to a few of my old clients, and they were like, "Oh yeah, come on back." So, I had that going, but there was something missing. It
Yeah.
was something missing. Like as much as I wanted to do it, my heart was being pulled over this way. And eventually I started to stumble over myself in this work. And I was like, I'm not going to do that work. Are you crazy?
Right.
Like,
Who do you think you are?
yeah, but it was like every time I tried to go away from it, I'd be redirected back into it. I'm going, you know what? You and me, we got to talk. I'm not trying to go over here. There's a whole lot of sadness going on over there. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like I'm not. No, like I don't want to be around sadness. I'm healing. No, you need to go that way. Eventually, one thing led into another, and now 3 years later, I'm going scratch my head, going, how in the world did this happen?
No, but it's better you and me than someone who's just
Yes,
educated.
yes, but
Because
but we don't
I'd
learn like
rather
that.
sit down with someone who has gone through the darkness to get
Mm,
out to the light, into the tunnel of darkness to the light, and you can have education.
yeah.
However, I don't know about you. When I meet someone who has been similar to me and they did the work to get to that other side, I
Hmm.
respect them because I know when I'm talking about certain things, they can hold space for me on a different, deeper level. And so
Yes.
I'm grateful for people who choose to go into this field educated. So I'm not downplaying that. However, I just want people to know you don't have to have an education to have a kind heart, to have compassion and empathy, and to show up in places. You don't have to be a doctor, a psychologist, or whatnot. And that's what I want to always remind people. You have a voice, you have a story, and you have equal value to someone who has accolades and who has all these, certificates and diplomas and whatnot, that you're equal to show up in this space,
Yes.
mental health and grief.
Yeah. No, I definitely respect that as well. And I watch people. I watch people doing the work now. And and I respect their journey. I'm just honored and humbled enough to be a part of it and be open enough to be able to hold that space with them as well. Um, because it brings, this work is selfish. We do it because it makes us feel good, right? But the benefit that it has for everything, the strongest, and I tell people the most selfish work that you would do is service. If
Mm.
you're passionate, and what I mean by that, no disrespect, I serve people because it makes me feel good. You
It
know,
feels you. Yeah.
Yeah, it fills me up. It makes me feel something other than pain and emptiness. So, it makes it, and when people go through that journey, in the back of my mind, it excites me. It excites me. But what excites me even more, and going back to what you said, is talking to someone like ourselves, and the people in the group, um, it's the language that we speak, right?
Yes,
We
it's
get
different.
around each other. It's just like, whoa, we gonna, yes, let's have some fun, right? And
Well,
other
you can feel
people,
the sentences and the thoughts. Like you could start, and the other person's like, "Oh my gosh, I get it. I get it."
yes,
Right? And
yeah,
it's so comforting to know, like, "Oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one." And then you can laugh about it too, and
yeah,
cry. Just go through the whole thing, because it's like, you get me. Oh my gosh, you get me. Because
right.
sometimes you can go through the same thing with your family, right, and your friends, and they don't get you. No matter what you hear, like, and you guys would live through the same experience. Like, I don't talk like this to my family. Why?
No,
Because they just
no,
like, they love me, but don't even try to go deep and talk about grief and mental health. They're like, no, I'm not trying to do this conversation.
yeah,
What your
but they're
father will go
scared.
through.
Yeah, they're scared because when we start off on it, like I have a buddy, like all my buddies right now are mad at me. They mad because they still have their families and stuff like that. They still they still view life in a different way from me, and so my one buddy, he's always telling me, man, every time we talk, you always talking about this, this, and this. I said, yeah, it's exciting. He was like, how come we can't talk about going out and shooting guns or going out and driving the four wheelers or something like that? I said, because honestly, I don't do that stuff. I
Right.
I was like, I don't do that. I don't, once I've been dedicated to this is all I've done. I've that's all this work right here is all I've done. Everything that's associated with it, everything that I wanted, this is all I've done for like the last 3 years. And my buddy's like, I don't know if I really want to talk about grief and trauma and things like that. This seems like kind of a sad situation. I was like, no.
Well, you know what? It's like, so people treat us like, oh my gosh, right? But when life happens and the cards get dealt,
Yep.
and you finally deal with the first loss, second loss, then
Hmm.
you think it and be like, okay. Because yeah, when my sister died, she was 23, I was 26. The people I was around at that time, nobody had lost anybody. So they did not, they would just act like I was the white elephant in the room. They wouldn't even
Yes.
ask me how I was doing. I was like, and then you just feel like, did she die? Or is it just me? Because nobody was trying to talk about it. They were just hoping I would just be okay, but nobody would offer to just. And so I tell people, hey, if someone is grieving, they don't necessarily need you to talk, but like, don't ignore them, because I see people like, they see me and then they the other direction because they don't want to talk about.
Hmm. You
But it's
already
like,
know.
it's so unloving. That's how I feel. Like, it's unloving. A hug goes a long way, guys. You don't have to say anything. A
You know
hug goes
what?
a long way.
I've been doing that. I definitely been doing that. Like since now that I'm starting to mature into my gift now, my gift is manifesting itself, and it's beautiful, and I see it. And I was telling someone the other day. I said, for the first time in my life, I feel that I finally was able to meet myself as
Yeah.
I mature, and grow and learn and build. I finally was able to meet myself, and I was like, it no longer feels like I'm living two lives.
Yeah.
One where, what I'm saying, the scared kid, I finally was able to bring that kid into adulthood with me. And here I am almost 50 years old. So those of you out there listening right now, trust me when I say this, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of healing, a lot of understanding the child that's in you in order to be the person as your authentic self. Because it's one and the same. You have a flesh and then you have the soul, but they're one and the same. The soul controls the flesh,
Yep.
if you allow it to. And that's
Yeah.
where
When
we
they
radiate from.
like,
Yeah.
simplify and have that understanding
Hmm.
that I got your back. It's okay. It sucks right now. It sucks. Like, acknowledge it. Like, your life is gonna have highs and lows.
Oh yeah.
It's impossible to just get through life alive. You're not. We're all gonna die. We're all gonna die, and so that's why yesterday is guaranteed, tomorrow's not promised, and today is a present because it's a gift to you. Every
Mhm.
day is a gift. Nobody's guaranteed. um but I think when you can be at peace and knowing, like, okay, tomorrow's not guaranteed, so I'm gonna live my life the way I want to live it, not the way my parents, grandparents, my spouse, my girlfriend, boyfriend, but the way I want to live it. And when it's your time, it's your time. But
Right.
like, people pleasing is not gonna bring us happiness and joy. Talking about grief and mental health makes me happy. I'm sorry, it makes me happy
Me
because,
too.
like, you, right? Don't you just want to normalize people feeling safe to talk about it?
I do.
It's healthy. It's
Yeah,
not bad. It's
I
part of
do.
life.
And that's the reason why we do the things that we do, with the conference and these podcasts and things like that. We want people to feel comfortable enough to talk about what's going on, because we have many people that have some crazy, crazy stories, but they're out here sharing it. And I'm always going to say this, and I'm a firm believer in this as well. Your story is someone else's survival guide, you know.
I
Yeah, be inspired by us, right? You know what I'm saying? Because we've managed to take the things that we've gone through and done some beautiful things with it to help other people, you know. All out of because we want to see you heal. We want to
Yep.
see you smile. Like you said, you want to see people you want to help people understand you can have joy in that in your healing process, through the pain. And to me, that's inspiring. That helps me get up every day because I know there's more people out there like myself that are out there doing the work. And honestly, I just want to do my part. You know,
Yeah.
that's all I want to do. I just want to do my part. And whatever that looks like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm dedicated to it. This is me. This is who I am. This, like you, this is who you are, and I can see that. I see you. You know.
Yeah, like, so I do a lot of dancing and singing, mainly on TikTok, and if I want, I'll share like on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
But I was thinking back, I was like, gosh, how did I get through life? Because, like I said, I endured so much violence
Mm.
growing up. It was music, it was singing, and it was dancing, because there's something special about music. And they even do studies, and it's part of therapy. Art and music is part of therapy now, right? It's more
Mhm.
normal. But when you're involved in music, for that moment, you're set free, right? Because you're just totally in tune to whatever melody, whatever lyrics. You're set free from your responsibilities. You're just in the zone, and it's healthy. And so that's why people see me and like, okay, guys, I am genuinely happy, but I do want you to know it wasn't automatic. It didn't just easily come.
Yeah.
Um, Acknowledging that, hey, I went through this with my sister, but after how many years being numb, I realized she told me the year she died to do what makes me happy. I just kind of slow about it. Like, it took me like 19 years to get it. Like, okay, like really get it. My grandmother had to tell me that too. The year she died, she was in hospice. So you have to do what makes you happy, because in the end, you can't blame no one. And I think a lot of times we don't give ourselves permission to be happy because we feel unworthy or we feel guilty and whatnot. Um,
Right.
I choose to cry when I feel like it. If I don't want to deal with people, my energy is low, then I just don't deal with people, you know. But it's my life, and it's whoever's listening or watching this, like, it's your life. You don't have to give people a playbook of why you do what you do. You just deal with it. I went through depression last. I was in therapy and I was still depressed from February until May last year because it was my dad's 10-year anniversary. And like I said, he died from vehicle accident. I think the 10th anniversary was when I finally dealt with the fact he died. And so I took it harder than all those years before. Um, and what I did was I made 200 pieces of artwork. I did watercolor, and I made 200 little pieces, or like regular postcard size, 200 pieces, and that was helpful. And then I had a breakthrough, a mental breakthrough, and in June I was okay again. But it just, I was just down. And then my therapist was like, well, I said, oh, I didn't tell you painted. She's like, oh no, you didn't. She goes, oh, did you enjoy it? I said, yeah. She's like, just do like 5-10 minutes a day if you can, and see how that works for you. Well, I was supposed to only do 5-10 minutes, ended up doing hours a day, and then I ended up, in a month I had over 200 pieces of art. And so I don't know, I would watch Netflix or listen to music, and I would just paint, and I would come up with rainbows and hearts and sunsets and sunrises. And I was like, that's weird, because I'm dealing with depression and all I see is colors.
Right.
And so I just want to encourage people that you have every right to process the way you want to process. Like,
Mm,
we process the way we do, but you have every right to process. And healing is just, you're just learning to the day you die, like what works for you, what doesn't work. And
yeah.
um, it's okay to carry on people's legacy. I genuinely believe when you and I are happy, they're equally happy for us too. When we're sad, they're sad too. But the people we love and miss, they would just want us to be happy. But you're gonna go through like these different stages, and it's okay. Like, there's no perfect way to live your life. Just live to the fullest.
Yeah. I always tell people, I'm the last of my generation, and so I'm last of my bloodline. So when I
Right.
go, there's no one else that comes behind me. All the males have been wiped out, as far as in my bloodline. So I'm the oldest and the last. And like you said, I want to leave something behind. I think that's what drives me the most, is that I I want to leave a legacy behind for when I'm gone. Not just for the people who come behind me. I want to set the bar high enough to where if I do good work out here, if I do really good work, and someone really wants to do this, I want to take every opportunity I have to build this thing up, and I want to inspire them to do better than me. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want them to be better than me. So that's why I have fun doing these things, and but yet everything I do has my family into it. Everything I do is because I don't want the next man to have to suffer the way I did or struggle the way I did. And that can go either which way. And it brings joy to me when I see another man come out of their shell and start to heal and become better for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of those different things. And so, you know, and I always say this, when I leave this place, I just want to leave something behind so people can be inspired. You know,
Yeah.
I want
That
people
makes
to be
me,
inspired. Use your
I feel like
creativity,
I want to leave the world better than when we came into it.
right? And that, because you know I spent a long time, a large part of my life destroying neighborhoods, because of the things that I used to do. I want to spend some time rebuilding those neighborhoods and helping those men in those neighborhoods be better, because I feel that I owe it to them. I owe it to
Yeah.
them.
And if there's anything like I can do to be part of it, I've spoken to what do you call it, anger management, where
Mhm.
men are court ordered to go to anger management. I've had the opportunity to talk to them about domestic violence and grief and whatnot.
Yeah,
And I think it's just cool, like to be able to give back and let
yeah,
people know that there's no judgment. We all make mistakes and we all do things, and we're human, and we can. A lot of the thing is forgiving ourselves for the things we said and allowed to tolerate, in our lives. People often feel like, oh, forgiveness for other people is like, I think the forgiveness comes more so with yourself
yeah. It
than
was a
the other.
It was definitely a lot of that. A lot of holding myself accountable for the person that I was when I was out there in the streets, because, you know, honestly, I lived day by day, minute by minute. There was nothing guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed for me. Even the day is not guaranteed for me, but I have to do whatever I have to do in order to survive this thing. And so I did, and I had to make bad choices. When I got older, I said, man, what, what am I supposed to do now? And I'm very spiritual. You know, I believe in God. Um, and I believe that I have a really strong connection with him. And he began to tell me, you have to forgive yourself. But
Mhm.
first you have to tell people who you are, you know, or who you were.
Yeah.
And that way, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm like, come on, man, don't do this to me. Like, I just now have good friends. And sure enough, when I opened up, those good friends that I had left. They
Yep.
left me. And so it left me by myself, and I went, nice one.
Right.
I was getting used to having some good friends around, but I get it though.
Yeah.
But I think I did it more for me than anything else. And then from there, it was holding myself accountable to being honest and
Mm.
um, staying true to who I am now, and taking those things from my past and going, you know what, it no longer matters anymore. I've survived that. I can't change my past, but I can change my future. And so I do everything in my power to make sure that I stay on the up and up, that I stay on the straight and narrow, that I stay obedient to the course, that I pay attention now, that I'm open to receiving, but also I live in a state of forgiveness, not just for myself, but for other people that come around me. No matter what they've done, I forgive you. I do it for me. I don't do it for them.
Yep.
You know, I
And the
don't.
thing is, you can forgive people, some people, depending if they're still abusive towards us, right? Some
Hmm.
people can love them, but that doesn't mean they have right to you on a daily basis. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then
Right.
that's what people need to realize is some people you can love them and wish them the best. But if they continue certain behaviors, verbally, mentally, physically, they don't have the right to be near you and your family or people in your life. And
Hmm.
so that's the part people have to realize. Like you can love people and forgive them, but they don't have to have rights to you on a day to day. Like there are people I love. Um, they're not. Oh, I'm frozen.
Okay,
um,
I can still hear you. It'll catch up with you.
people, I love. They have rights to be in person, but they don't have rights to follow me on social media because they have an opinion about what I post on social media. It's
Mhm.
like it's just doing the work. It's just doing the work. Mental health, talking about grief, talking about things that I love, dancing and singing. Is like they don't understand why I would do those things, but it's not my job to get you to feel comfortable.
Uh-oh, she dropped out. Well, we lost our guest. Hopefully she'll jump back on real quick, and we'll wrap this thing up. And for everyone that's out there that's listening right now, I'm really hoping you guys are enjoying the interview, because I know I am. It's always fun when I can talk to a fellow colleague, and be able to talk about these things. You know, domestic violence, abuse, addiction, and things like that. So yeah. So hopefully, you guys are enjoying it. We'll give her a little bit more time to see if she'll jump back on. If not, we're going to conclude this thing. And her links are her links are in the discussion. Hey, what's going on, my brother Dean? Yeah, we just lost our guests and everything. I think it was just bad internet connection and everything. So, like I said, we're going to give her a few more minutes, and if she wants to jump back on, she can. Other than that, check her links in the bio. You guys check her out. Check out her podcast, Healing with Aloha. She's on. Matter of fact, she's on Apple. She does have a YouTube channel, which if she comes back up here, we'll get that, and also the links to where her book is. You guys should really check those things out. A lot of great information inside of there. All right, all right. She is. I think her internet is down. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Check. Oh, there she is. There she is. Oh, here we go.
It just froze. I'm sorry, guys.
No, that's okay. I was just talking to
I
everyone. No, I was just talking to everyone. I was like, we're gonna give her a few more. She may have just dropped out momentarily, and these things do happen. And so, and I was just telling them how amazing that you were and how fun it is to be able to talk with a fellow colleague, about these things, to be able to share this information with people. Um, and so, did you have a YouTube channel, correct? Because I was just
Yes.
telling him about your podcast, the Apple podcast, Healing with Aloha. But share about
Yeah.
your YouTube channel.
Yeah. So the I have on YouTube, it's called Healing with Aloha Podcast. And then my other my personal site is Aloha, and my first name DESLYNN. That's my other thing. But yeah, I think we can make talking about it more pleasant, more not. I mean, it is hard. It is hard, you know. But when you do the work to address the other, because when you grieve, it's one thing you're grieving someone you love, but we don't realize it's layered with other things we've never talked about. That we're
Yeah,
grieving what we grieve the little us, the inner child that never got to live to the fullest, because the people at the time that were caretaking for us, whether it's our parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, cousins, whatever's, or if you're in foster care, those people, there are things that people said and did that hurt us. And now we're dealing with today, we're grieving the loss of someone who genuinely loved us. And that's why it hurts. Because sometimes you wish you could bring them back, because their love for you was so legit that why did they have to go? But a lot of it is a part of you died with them. And how do you live without them? And that's why it's important to surround yourself with other people who are continuously learning and healing.
Yeah.
You know, it gives you freedom. Like, I cry. I miss my sister, my dad, and my grandparents. Like, but I give myself permission to feel. Before, I didn't want to feel. Like, no, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna feel, because the fear of you gonna break down. But who said breaking down was bad? It's society. Society makes you feel bad.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with breaking down, crying, and having like snot come out of your nose. It's healthy. It's normal.
I mean, it's messy.
You don't want to see one breaking down, but you just go, like, when the waves come, because it comes in waves and it's not constant, right? But if you just,
it feels like it.
Yeah, it just let it go. Like, of course, the first few years or 10 years or whatever, like I said, the 10-year mark for my dad was the hardest year. But then this is the month my dad died. I'm okay at this moment, but it's just giving yourself permission. Just let it go. Let it go. Maybe you're at work and you don't want to let it go, which is fine. Then okay, today I'm having a hard time. When I get home, let it go. You know what I mean? But just, it's different, like you said. Like, when you can finally feel safe to just be you, like, that's what makes the ability to feel joy and happiness possible, because you can be everything. Like, there's no limit to you being yourself.
That is very, very true. That is very, very true. Now, if you had any inspiring words to tell someone right now, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that you will always matter, no matter what you've been through, and the people you love and miss love you the same, and they are rooting for you every day that you live, and that you can live your life to the fullest with every breath that you take, because you take them with you into your future. And they want you to be happy, and they want you to feel joy, because they're always with you. You don't see them, but they're always with you in spirit. And there's hope to heal. And healing is a better way to live your life than feeling guarded by the people and the things that hurt you. So that's what I would say.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Now, where can people find you?
You can find me. I'm actually on all social media platforms, but on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok, Healing with Aloha or Aloha DESLYNN JAQUIAS. I'm also on LinkedIn as DESLYNN JAQUIAS. Oh, and I'm on Twitter. So, but just reach out to me. My email is healingwithallohapodcast@gmail.com.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, thank you for being on today. Thank you for taking your time. I know it's early over there.
No, actually, it's not. It's actually only 1 o'clock
Oh,
p.m.
okay. Okay. So not bad. Not bad then. You know?
It's not that bad.
Okay. See, I was under the impression that it was like, no, actually, I have it written down. So I understand. I definitely understand. To the people who are tuning in today, please stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, do me a favor, go over there, subscribe to it, hit that bell notification, share, leave us a comment, tell us what you think about it, and yeah, you guys keep your head up
Thank
because we have a
you so
lot.
much. First, what is your network, your group on
Oh
Facebook? So
yes, 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 yes.
I would love
For
for people to
Yeah, so for you grief workers out there, we have a special place for us. We've been building this network. It's called the Global Grief Network, and it's full of people just like ourselves. We have conversations like this. We support each other, and we just have a blast. It feels good to be around people that talk the same language as you do. But also, we have a lot more coming up this weekend. We have the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast episode 9, where we're going to be talking about healing and understanding generational and childhood trauma. We also have the Global Grief Conference that's coming up at the end of April, so please keep an eye out for that. We have a
and I'll
lot of
share it.
Yes, it's going to be amazing, and it's all live streamed and it's free to attend. So we have 3 days of just presenters, some great information out there. So guys, make sure you guys stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, go check out Aloha. Your book. Where can you find your book at?
Oh, yes. The Power to Rise Above. It's on Amazon, Amazon Kindle, Smashwords, and Apple Books.
Awesome, awesome. So those things will be down there. If you're listening to it, write it down. Go over there and cop that book. Check out their channel, subscribe to it, and show support for the local grief workers out here. And until next time, you guys keep your head up. We love you, and always, if you guys are struggling, please seek support. There's nothing wrong with not with asking for help. All right. Until next time. Peace.
Aloha.